read 100 books in 2025 and these were my top nonfiction picks of the year. A slight disclaimer that I am not a huge nonfiction reader. The vast majority of what I read is fiction, but I do sometimes dabble in a little nonfiction. These were my top 6 picks of the year. Starting out with Barbie and Ruth by Robin Gerber. This was the story of the creation of Barbie and Ruth Handler and how Barbie got to be how it is today. I also read a historical fiction this year called Let's Call Her Barbie. I'm such a big Barbie girl. To know more about the history of Barbie and how she came to be was such a fun read. The next book is Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Nguyen. This was a pretty fast read for me, but it was such a good reminder. I saw a quote earlier this year that basically said, just because you think it doesn't mean that it's true, and it was really talking about your own thoughts and self-doubt and all of that stuff, and this was just kind of expanding on that, and I absolutely loved it. Not only did he talk about the psychological reason of how we think and why we think, he also turned everything that he was saying into practical applications about how to break destructive thinking patterns, and I just really enjoyed it. Again, if you're not a huge nonfiction reader, this was a pretty short one, a pretty easy one to get into, and I really enjoyed it. The next book is Ultra Processed People by Chris Van Tolkien. This was such an eye-opening book and a little bit of a terrifying book. This breaks down the science of UPCs, or ultra processed foods, and goes into a lot of detail about how those foods are made, why there have been no regulations on it, and the history of it as well. And what I liked about this book was that he wasn't really telling you what to do. He wasn't telling you not to eat ultra processed foods, nor was he really judging you for eating ultra processed food. He was just laying out the science behind it and kind of helping you come to your own realization about how bad ultra processed foods can actually be for you. A little bit terrified to learn about why ice cream can be frozen but still scoopable, corn oil and sunflower oil and all those things actually are. So read this with caution. Very scary, but also very eye-opening. The next book is Camera Girl by Carl Anthony. I would say my two big areas of nonfiction reading is like science and wellness, and then biography and history, and this was such a good biography on Jackie Kennedy. So this actually follows Jackie Kennedy throughout her life up until she meets JFK, and I think it was really cool to learn more about her upbringing and why she was the way she was, why it's worked for her and Jack, what led her to meeting Jack and then being together. I feel like it was a part of her story that isn't told very often. If you are a Jackie O fan, or you love fashion, or you just love learning about people's lives, I just thought this one was so well written. I love that it had a section of photographs in the middle to see pictures of her from high school and college. And the coolest thing that I learned in this, and the reason why it's called Camera Girl, is that she worked for a newspaper for a few years before she married JFK. She was a big traveler, she was a big proponent for learning new languages and new cultures, and I just really enjoyed this one. The next one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. This was a reread for me, and I honestly think that I will reread this every year from now on because there are so many good practical applications in this book that I always forget about. I love that the front says tiny changes, remarkable results, because he really does break it down like that. He makes wanting to change your life feel very manageable and overcomable because he's just teaching you how to take these little steps towards being the person you want to be. I feel like everyone can learn something from this book. I feel like everyone could benefit from reading this book. I really enjoyed it. However, if you are in any way squeamish, or maybe you aren't a huge blood person, skip the prologue because I about passed out. I listened to this the first time that I read it, and I literally about passed out listening to him read the prologue. He gets hit in the face with a baseball. I would just skip it. Just skip it. And last but not least, The Glucose Revolution by Jessie and Chospe. I hope I'm saying that right. This is a really interesting book on what glucose does to our body and how glucose spikes affect our energy and our mood and our everyday life. I love health and wellness books that are so science-based and more science-based than self-helpy, because I'm not a huge self-help book person, but when someone can explain to me the science behind something, but then also give me practical ways to incorporate it into my life, that is always going to be my favorite kind of nonfiction book, and this was exactly like that. She breaks down the exact science of the difference between glucose and fructose, between super high glucose spikes and drops will do to your body versus a very mild glucose spike. She talks about how long-term glucose spikes affect your body, type 1 and 2 diabetes. She talks about fatty liver disease. That probably encompasses the first half of the book, and then the back half are like actual tangible ways that you can incorporate her findings into your everyday life, along with testimonials about people who have taken her method and incorporated into their lives as well. And I just really enjoyed it. I have started incorporating a few of the things into the way that I eat, and what I liked was that she wasn't telling you what to eat. In this one, she was more just telling you in what order to eat your food, or what you could add to your diet to help maintain a normal glucose level, and I just really enjoyed it. Like I said, I am not the biggest nonfiction reader, but I do enjoy either a biography, history book, or a science wellness book, and these are just the ones that I really enjoyed this year. All these are also available on Audible, and I think all of them are on Spotify as well. If you're a Spotify premium member, you can do audiobooks for free, and I would highly recommend each and every one of them for your 2026 nonfiction reading.